Hey, this is Nick Mundt from Bone Collector, and you're listening to Pro Talk Outdoors.
That's what I call pro talk. When you really don't know the answer, you just make it up.
My rut is that I am in a rut.
To get the pilot of Red Arrow going. This is really a way to skip class.
I want to say, hey, those boys right there are entertainers.
There you go. That's the nicest thing anybody's ever said on this podcast.
Alex Rutledge here with American Roots Outdoors TV.
Hey, this is Lee and Tiffany Lukoski from the Crush TV.
Hi, I'm Don Higgins.
This is Jeff Lindsay.
Hey, everybody, this is Mark Drury with Drury Outdoors.
Hey, this is Craig Fitz of Trained Assassins TV. You're listening to Dave and JP on Pro Talk Outdoors, the craziest two I know.
Hey everybody, Pro Talk Outdoors, JP and Dave anchoring it down today. Had a little barbecue. You were running late like normal, so
it's work, man. Busy life.
Well, yeah, I understand. It's sitting in there waiting on you whenever we're done recording this podcast, so I hope the smell of a rack of ribs kind of wafts in here on you a little bit.
I'm ready to go with that. Appreciate dinner, by the way.
Yeah,
man.
well, hey, no problem. I know that's one of the better smells that you've had over the last several days. You had a little bit of an issue on Saturday. We had an issue, but you directly had to deal with the issue on Saturday.
Yeah. Oh, my gosh. I'd almost forgot about that before you mentioned it.
I have not forgotten, and I've actually told the story several times at my day job this week, and you're a legend at my work, man.
I did probably not for the right reasons. But
well, I mean, are you going to tell the story, or am I telling the story?
Well, I know, we're Bullwinkle, okay?
Everybody, if you've listened to this show at all or followed our page,
in the last year, at least,
yes,
we've talked excessively about Bullwinkle, and Bullwinkle, we're back on him, and I feel like
we ready.
Not to sound too Don Higgins-ish, I guess I should say. I messed that all up, but not to sound too much like Don Higgins, I would give ourselves about a 90% chance of success on Bullwinkle.
That's
this
very
year.
Bullish, and that's how you roll. Continue. Yeah. I think that's too much, but continue.
We're on him. We're getting pictures and everything, and the mineral site that we have rolling there, where Bullwinkle's a regular visitor every day. We went to swap out the card on Saturday. And Eric was walking with me as we were going up.
Well, we try to limit the scent,
Yeah, we
didn't need 4 guys in the woods at once.
We're nose jammering up, and we're doing everything the same we did last year, keeping the pattern going, everything's smooth. But as we rounded the hill and we kind of looked down into the mineral site, there was an unexpected visitor right in the middle of the mineral site.
And knowing Dave and I, you might think, oh, it was probably a snake. With those wusses, it was not a snake.
It was a raccoon.
A dear departed raccoon.
Deer is probably the reason it was departed.
I'm not sure if it got kicked or if it choked to death, because you have to think raccoons don't have salivary glands. So they dip a lot. They moisturize a lot of things that they eat. Like if they're near water or anything moist, they'll find a way to make it moist.
Are you serious?
I swear that's science, bro.
I didn't know that.
So I'm not convinced that it was kicked by a doe, but he was.
Well, here's the thing.
He was a little stiff.
There was day one after we refreshed the mineral and everything. Bullwinkle was there just like normal. Snoop was there just like normal. But there was this angry doe that was there as well, along with Mr. Raccoon there, and. The raccoon,
I love the pronunciation.
The raccoon there, he was in the camera, and you could just see his little head there in his eyes, and he's looking up every once in a while.
He looked a little bit distressed.
Well, the doe looked a little angry in a couple of the clips, the picture clips, and you could see her rearing up. And the next thing I know,
he gone.
You didn't see any more clips of the raccoon there, and a week later, when we go there, Mr. Raccoon is laid out, and there wasn't much left of him. So we had to get the thing moved out of the way. I mean, it was impeding progress.
Well, here's where I come into the story. Craig and I remained in the truck, and the truck is facing where you guys entered the woods, and it's, I don't know, a good 20 yards off from the trail that you went in. and I see you come out of the woods with a purpose. I mean, you were coming out there like you meant it. And I know that you have absolutely zero track and field experience, but the form on your discus throw of that raccoon carcass was frigging exemplary. I mean, you got major distance on the corpse here. I mean, it went halfway over that bean field. I didn't think you had enough arm left to do that.
Well, that poor little fella was flattened out really well. I mean, so he glided.
Very aerodynamic. And I looked at Craig. I said, did Dave just throw a raccoon out of the woods?
It was a bad deal. So,
and when you got back in the truck, you wanted to eliminate the scent.
Oh,
This ties it back into the smell thing.
I stank.
You did. You stank pretty bad. You wanted to eliminate the smell. Oh, give me something. Give me something, boys. I smell real bad. And Eric reaches over and he hands you this bottle of lotion.
Nose jammer lotion.
Nose jammer lotion. Sure, that's going to cover the smell, but Dave, it does not sanitize your hands.
No,
and
but
it ended
I'll
up
tell you.
all over the steering wheel.
Well, yeah. So, I mean, I felt good about getting rid of the smell. You know, I can deal with the fact that I got dirty hands. I usually have dirty hands, but I can't live with that smell.
You're a dirty
so
boy.
The good thing is Eric, but you know, Eric squeezed out way too much lotion in my hands. So and the bad thing is I'm already driving. You know, I'm already driving up to the next site.
Oh, we almost ended up in the ditch.
And I grabbed that steering wheel. If you got a lot of lotion on your hands, don't grab the leather wheel. It's not going to work out well for you.
And I don't really know why you would need lotion in your vehicle anyway. I mean,
it's nose jammer lotion, man.
Well, yeah, I just take care of that when you shower.
You never know if I'm going to be on a date and need to get some smell good going. Nose jammer, take care of that.
Fair enough. Before we move into this next segment, by the way, we're going to have Nick Mundt on from Bone Collector, but we do want to take a minute to mention our folks. We already talked about our mineral side. Obviously, we're working with Real World Maximizer, doing a great job for us this year as well, as it always does. Mention Nose Jammer, so important this time of year for checking our cards and everything and trying to keep that scent control regimen going all year long, not just hunting season. But we got to give a shout out to Wicked Tree Gear and Glacier Coolers, because right now it's hot out. It's hot as heck. If you're on a boat, Glacier is a fantastic thing to have with you, or just going on these trips to the woods to have it in the back of the truck. And
my Glacier cooler goes with me everywhere I go. You know, right now, back of the truck.
And you don't have to put that much ice in it. It stays for a good while.
Yeah, if I'm in the side-by-side, it's in the back of the side-by-side. If I go on the boat, it's on the boat.
It's true. I think it was in the back of the side-by-side when you played softball with me.
It was.
On Sunday.
Absolutely. Cold drinks necessary to get through a rough day of softball.
And you took a tumble there, too. It was an interesting weekend of day. Dave's a Thunder. But we got to give a shout out to these guys. Sometimes we may not even give them the due that we should, because basically we're just a bunch of regular Joes with some good opportunities and some good resource to get us where we like to be. So without further ado, thanks to those guys. And we're going to go talk to Nick Mundt a little bit about chasing some species out west and how you get to a good spot mentally and get prepared before you go on that trip to really have success. We'll be back. You're listening to Pro Talk Outdoors. Hey everybody, welcome back to Pro Talk Outdoors, and we did go high profile with this one. Maybe I'll pronounce it correctly on this take. Mr. Nick Mundt from Bone Collector. Man, thank you so much for coming on with us, number one, and number two, dude, appreciate you going the extra mile there, literally, to get in good cell reception.
Hey, yeah, it's good to be here. Yeah, I just had to drive up on the little hill here to, get out of the middle of nowhere, so it's all good.
So where is the little hill? Is it? I mean, where are you at? You in Colorado? Where are you at, Nick?
I'm in Minnesota right now.
Minnesota. Okay, that's hometown.
Yep.
All right.
Yep. So I'm originally from South Dakota, and I live in Minnesota. I just moved here recently, so I got married this summer, and my wife is from here. So.
Well, congratulations.
This is where home base is now. So.
Well, it's good that you mentioned just moving around and those states in particular. I know this time of year, folks are thinking about getting ready to go on some hunts out west, pronghorn or elk or things of that nature. And most guys,
mule deer. That's on my brain.
Mule deer. Most guys are either doing this through some sort of guide or trying to get all their stuff together and do their homework to do it yourself. And as somebody that's from out in that area, we kind of want to ask these questions in a two-part piece here and just kind of pick your brain a little bit as to how somebody would get started in going after one of those bucket list species like that. So let's kick it off with just, if you're going to go through a guide, what is step number 1 to get yourself in position to succeed?
Well, first step is always to get the tag first. So start putting in early. Get with a good outfit like WTA tags. Those guys, they'll put you in for all the units. Charges you a little bit, but they put me in for all the cheap tags, all the good tags, all the good mule deer tags, all the good elk tags, moose, all of that stuff. They can put in for all of them, and you got to start gaining points, to get into the real good stuff. So that's first on the list. But then after that, just depends if you want to get an outfitter. If it's one of those coveted tags, you want to get with somebody good. Somebody that's been there, somebody that's proven, and to do that usually costs a little bit of money, but it's worth it. You don't draw those tags often, and if you're passionate in hunting like mine is, have people say, oh, well, you don't, it's tough to kill big stuff where I live. It's like, well, if you really want to kill big stuff, you got to go other places, because where I grew up, we didn't have really big bucks. Had quite a few deer, but just saving for a hunt of a lifetime is something to shoot for, and I guess that's what makes hunters great, because they're goal oriented. To go on a good hunt, especially in the West, you're most likely going to have to pay somebody to get results. I don't know if it's different if you got a month and a half to go scout and do all that stuff, but if you want to show up somewhere and hunt for 5 days, then you can spin your wheels for quite a few days, trying to find where they're at. So
I want to go back to I want to go back to the first thing you said there about, getting points and getting started with that. Some folks, if they live in a state where preference points aren't really a part of their normal, DNR process, is that something you need to start years in advance or 1 year in advance? How soon should you start thinking about getting preference points?
Well, you can always get lucky. That's the thing about it. Anytime you put in for an application, you can always get lucky. So, a lot of good areas, you got to have 7, 8, 10 points. Some areas 3 or 4, some 20. I drew a tag in the Arizona Strip this year, and it's an impossible tag to draw. It's so rare to draw it, but I got so lucky. I had like a 0.6% chance to draw. So you just never know. You just never know. So you got to start putting in, and if you don't put in, you won't draw it. So, and if you want to go on the best public land, mule deer, elk, all those good hunts, all public land, but you got to have a bunch of points to get it. So I would start now and get a good firm to help you do all that, because it's kind of complicated.
And you mentioned, was it WTA? Is that what you mentioned?
Yeah, WTA tags. It's a really good group of guys. It used to be Cabela's tags, but it was bought by the guys at WTA, and they've got all kinds of people to help you get your applications filled out, as well as when you draw tags, put you with outfitters. They have everything from basically all around the world, Asia, Africa. They can do it all. They're a booking agent, and they have a tag service. So I highly recommend it. It costs a little bit of money, but every year that you're put in for the right tags, and when you do something with a group like that, in no time you got 4 or 5 years under your belt, and pretty soon you start popping these good tags, and that's how you get the big animals in the West, is you got to draw the tag.
So when you say a little bit of money, we talking second mortgage on the house, a little bit of money, or are we talking mama get real mad money? What are we talking about?
It depends. It just depends on what you want to do. You can find a nice mule deer hunt in Wyoming or Montana, for $4,000, or you can go to Utah and Nevada and go hunt some of the biggest bucks in the world and spend, buy a governor's tag or a landowner's tag and spend $20 to $200,000. It just depends on what you want to spend,
Yeah. Okay. So it's affordable for guys.
It's not required though either. So if you want to do your due diligence and go to South Dakota, Wyoming, Montana, and spend 10 days, look at maps, get GPSs, and call around, go out there and hike around and find stuff out. That's great too. It really is. But I'm just talking about mostly for the guy that's on a 5 or 6 day budget. He wants to go on a great hunt, because I grew up hunting public land, and it's great to have public land, but it took me years and years and years and years and years living there to figure it out, so it's not that easy just to go plop out there and get it done, it's big country, and having a guide's great. So
well, that's the perfect transition. So what's the first step for a do-it-yourselfer other than getting the tag and acquiring that? Once you get past that, the do-it-yourself guy, where does he need to start?
Okay. Again, figure out the chunk of public land you want to get, and figure out if you have to draw a tag or if it's over the counter or how it works, and then basically just all the maps you need are online. You can download maps and apps and figure out where you want to be, and call biologists, call game wardens, get information, and then just put boots on the ground. You just got to get out there and scout it and look it over and set up trail cameras. And but I think the biggest thing is you just have to kind of figure out what state you want to hunt in, get an area figured out that you want, and then start getting the maps for it. Figure out roads and trails, and then figure out how you want to get off the road a couple miles. Go a couple ridges over and get off the beaten path a little, where the hunting's a little better. And it's hunting public ground is tough. You got to put in your time and your effort, but it pays off because there's animals there, and it's fun.
Yeah. So I mean, did you get your start kind of in the outdoor industry as a guide? Didn't I hear that somewhere or see that somewhere?
Yeah. I started in Wyoming. I worked at 7J Outfitters, and we guided elk, mule deer, whitetails, antelope, and turkeys. And I worked there for a lot of years, and then the guys from Realtree came and did a show with us, and I was always running my video camera and filming my clients and stuff like that. And so when Realtree came, I showed David Blanton a bunch of my footage, and he liked it, and we got along really well, and so he offered me a job at Realtree, and then I started filming at Realtree. So then that kind of brought me to Bone Collector. But yeah, I did get my start as a guide in Wyoming, yeah.
Yeah, so last week, I was actually on vacation last week, so I wasn't involved with the podcast, but JP here and another partner of ours, Wyatt, they had Daryl Blandon on the podcast last week.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I had to give him a little. I had to give him a little stuff over that, and he took it so well. He said that people in the office still just call him Daryl, and he doesn't even miss a beat. It's almost like he doesn't even recognize anymore that there's a difference between that and his real name. He's a
great guy. He's one of the best. He's definitely basically my mentor. In the industry. He's the one that basically gave me my start, and brought me on board with Realtree, and I've been part of their family ever since. So David Blanton is awesome guy. What you see is what you get. He's great.
He does. He seems very, very genuine.
I want to.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I tell you what, Nick. I want to kind of focus a little bit here for a minute on whitetails. Yeah. And I know you've hunted pretty much all over the country with whitetails. I mean, if you watch Bone Collector or some Realtree videos, you're in Iowa and South Dakota, just hunting several different states. But for a guy like, let's just say for myself here, I mean, I'm a do-it-yourselfer kind of guy. Basically hunting the farms that I hunt are the farms that I've gained access, whether it be through a lease or through permission, and I'm doing all the work and everything year-round on that property. But I always have a desire to go and hunt another state, just jump in and hunt some public ground or something that I'm not familiar with at all. So let's just say you've got a time limit of let's just say you've got 5, 6, maybe 7 days to hunt in a state where you're not familiar with anything. You just show up. How do you hit the ground running on a whitetail hunt to try to key in on getting something done that week?
Well, I definitely start off with maps. I mean, I look at topo maps and aerial maps, and that just shows me exactly where I need to be. All I need to do is take a look at where the cover is and where the food is, and then get in there. Again, sneak around and find the best trails and read the sign and be mobile. That's what I think. I mean, I like I got a couple of really nice light hawk tree stands, and they make some awesome sticks. You can just put it all right on your back and sneak in somewhere, and get on a good trail and pop up a stand and see what happens. Because a lot of time, that first time you get into a spot like that, I mean, that can be, if you're seeing a lot of rubs and scrapes, and just read the sign with the topo map, the aerial, whatever they call it, I can't think of it, satellite map, that thing ought to tell you exactly where you need to be. I mean, anytime you look at one of those, you should be able to just see if it makes sense or not. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I understand that perfectly. It makes good sense. Are you utilizing trail cameras on those short hunts like that?
Not really. Sometimes I do, but maybe if we got a real good pinch area where they're coming through a gate or something like that, I can just put a camera up to see kind of what's around. But in those situations, if you don't have that much time, I think you'd pick a spot that's got a lot of good sign and just hunt it. You know what I mean? You give it 4 or 5 days if you're in an area like Illinois or Kansas or Iowa or, a state that's really managed well for deer. I think if you get in a good area and you just stick it out, put your time in, and I mean, it doesn't always, it doesn't hurt to put up some cameras, but I just think getting a good overlay of what the land looks like and just read the sign, you can't go wrong, especially if there's mature bucks in that country,
And this may be a gimme question I'm about to ask here, but do you notice that accomplishing that task gets tremendously more difficult around firearm season in a state that you're not familiar with? Do you think that a lot of those guys are keying in on the same areas that maybe they're not keying in on during bow season, A, either because of just the number of guys that are out there, or B, just nature of the beast?
Yeah, I just think people like to gun hunt, and even if a guy's not an avid, like here in Minnesota, there's a lot of guys that hunt, a lot of hunters, and it's great. And there's a lot of guys that just enjoy the hunt with their families and aren't big hunters like we are, If they go out on the opening day and maybe shoot a buck, maybe shoot a doe, just enjoy the time. And I think there's a lot of guys like that. And so when you get closer to gun season, around here anyway, everybody hunts. So it's a little easier to get permission for archery. But once you get closer to gun season, it gets pretty tough.
No doubt. No doubt.
Yep.
Well, man, let's transition a little bit. I want to ask you, some things about what you've got coming up this season with Bone Collector. Obviously, that show long-running and very successful. Is there anything a little different about this season that people should keep their eye out for?
I don't know. We're going to go on a few different hunts that we've never done this year. I'm hunting that mule deer hunt. We're going to hunt elk in Oregon. Probably going to do something in Oklahoma. I've never hunted Oklahoma really, so got a few new trips coming up. But then hit South Dakota and Texas. Most likely Illinois. I got an Iowa tag. Stuff like that. We'll hit 7, 8, 9 states, I guess, for different things, starting in September all the way through Christmas. So it's just a lot of fun. I really look forward to hunting season. It's just my favorite. I never get tired of it.
Yeah, well, I mean, it sounds like you've kind of lived that life even, when you were younger and getting your start as a guide. So, yeah, it's a dream come true, really. But let me ask you this question, Nick. If you were to pick just your favorite time of year to hunt, or even, I mean, you can go location if you want to, whether it be, what state, but your favorite time to hunt whitetails, what period of the season is it? And then also, what tactic are you using most of the time to be successful in that time frame?
Well, I think if you're hunting just one spot, I think definitely the pre-rut, and the seeking is the best, funnest time to hunt. You can see the most bucks are on their feet, yada, yada, yada. But when you do a lot of hunting, you just kind of find at that time of the year where the hot spots are. So, say, Wyoming and in Montana in September, the bucks are grouped up. They're in velvet. They're highly visible in the alfalfa fields, very patternable. You try to do that in the Midwest in Illinois and places like that. I mean, you don't see anything. It's so thick and it's hotter than crap, So I think just depending on the time of year, so those early seasons I like the West because of the reasons that I said. And then, October can be tough, but, again, you might be able to pick off deer in a feeding pattern in October. in those western states. And then, of course, like I said, the pre-rut and then rut are the best in the Midwest, Illinois, Iowa, Kansas, stuff like that. So it just kind of depends on what time of the month. Obviously, October is probably the slowest month for whitetail hunting, really. And then December, you're just hoping for bad winter, so they just pile into those food plots and stuff. So just kind of depends on the month.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, and kind of along that line, I've thought often, I'm wanting to hunt Ohio this year, to just be perfectly honest with you and all the listeners. I'm really wanting to do that. It's close logistically to where we live. We're from southern Indiana. And I've just thought so much about when should I try to go on this out-of-state trip. Should I wait until I have a couple tags filled? Or maybe should I just try to get around, the archery opener and kind of get these deer on public land before they're pressured, because I'm trying to factor that in as well. And, I mean, from a guy who's been there and done that, what would your advice be?
Well, do you have a lease of your own, or you can hunt public land?
No, it's going to be all public land. I mean, we have properties in Indiana and Kentucky, so I mean we're going to have 2 buck tags to try to fill. So that was kind of my inkling there, was should I try to fill those 2 before I add a third state, or if I'm going to do the third state, should I try it in early archery? I don't know.
I'm just not sure. I definitely think the best time to be there would be like last 4 or 5 days in October, first 4 or 5 days in November. I mean, I think that's definitely the hot time to be there. And then it's probably they're going to get locked up for a couple of weeks, and then right around Thanksgiving or just a hair before might be really good again. So it just kind of depends on what you're doing in your home state. But I think anytime you can be in your best spot when the bucks are in the pre-rut, I think that's you want to be where your best chance of killing your best deer is. And I think if you got a good place in Ohio that's public, and there's some mature bucks living in that area, I mean, I think that's last week in October, first week in November is my favorite, no doubt.
Yeah, it should be popping at that time for sure.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think last year was crazy. Like I got to Kansas on like the 6th, I think, and for 2 days I just saw buck after buck after buck. But I got there right on the tail end of it, so I only had about 2 days, and I just couldn't get those big mature bucks to come by me. I mean, I was seeing them at 50, 60, 70 yards moving fast. And then after that, they got locked up. And I never did get a deer in Kansas last year. But those first 4 days of November were just unreal. They were just cruising and looking and coming to horns and grunt calls. And phenomenal.
Man, I'll tell you what, it seems like to me, now I'll admit I don't watch every episode of any show, but I watch a little bit of everything. But it seems like, and I've got everything on my DVR recorded, but in doing this podcast, and we film our own show and our full daytime job, it's just kind of tough to watch everything. But it seems like every time that I watch a Nick Mundt episode on Bone Collector, you're killing the biggest deer you ever killed. Why does it seem like that?
Well, I got lucky a little bit. So I killed my biggest deer ever in Ohio, and then the next year I shot my biggest deer in Kansas, and then I went over to Iowa and I shot my biggest deer in Iowa.
Okay, so I wasn't just imagining that. It was really happening. Because I keep thinking, every time I watch, I'm like, I know I haven't seen this episode, but he just said he killed his biggest deer. I mean,
Yep. I've been really lucky, man. Holy, a lot of hours in the sand sometimes. There's a few years are kind of dry. You don't get a lot. You get a few, but you spend a lot of time and work hard, and it just doesn't work for you. And then other years it just clicks and boom, 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 and you just get lucky. That's all there is to it.
Well,
and I think that equates to being out there to make your luck better.
Yeah, I think maybe you're being a little bit humble and there, but modest maybe. But so, would you say that maybe the biggest factor to creating your quote unquote luck is actually putting the time in? I mean, it just time on stand, hard work and time on stand. Is that the 2 biggest factors probably?
Yeah, and being able to adapt. I mean, you sit and stand for 2 or 3 days and you see the deer moving 200 yards away. You don't keep sitting and stand you've been sitting in. You got to move that sucker. So being able to adapt and, you get into a place, it's good, but the deer are traveling 60 yards from you. You see does keep cruising the same trails. That's where you got to be. You got to move and put a good plan together, and I think that's what makes people successful, because I just keep every year, you just try to get better and better and better, and pick people's brains, and get to know other people that have been doing it a long time, and I don't know, you just start thinking like a dang deer, I guess. So that's, and then you got to put yourself in good spots. I mean, you can't, I'm not going to tell you I'm going to go to Pennsylvania and shoot a 130, because I probably won't, because I know about as many guys as I can count on my hands and toes from Pennsylvania that have never shot at a 130, but they're damn good hunters. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep.
They got to be there. I can say that. Sorry about that.
No,
you can say damn. I've said worse on here before.
You can speak freely on this podcast.
One thing I was...
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm lucky. I get to hunt a lot of good spots. So what I'm saying is there's better hunters than me, but I feel like I've adapted over the years to be able to get it done. So
one thing I was thinking about watching these shows, and within one episode you'll sometimes see the hunter, the subject, spend 2 or 3 or 4 days consecutively either in the same set or on the same piece of property, chasing some bucks around, if he's moving from state to state or what have you. So in those moments where you're spending consecutive days on the same property or in the same area, how do you go about choosing your game plan? Are you and the cameraman, both discussing back and forth, what's our best play here, what's our best play there? Are you discussing with landowners? How do you go about making the decision to move or stay put in those extended hunts?
Well, usually, we put our heads together, come up with a plan, and the most important thing, to me, the most important thing going in, coming out, and when you're in your stand is to not let deer know you're there. I mean, if you're walking in and one deer sees you and blows, I mean, that just kills me. So, I try to find the sneakiest way to get into my stand without a deer seeing me or smelling me. And if I feel like I got in and out without anything knowing I was there, then I can hunt that stand again. But if I go in and out a couple times and I think I'm spooking deer, then I'm probably going to switch it up a little bit,
So
because you can make them aware to you, you definitely can. So you just got to be as sneaky as you possibly can be. Don't get out of your stand when there's 6 deer right around it. Wait till it's pitch dark and they've moved off a little bit, and then slowly get down and sneak out of there. I think the biggest mistake you can do is just let deer know you're in the country, period. I mean, that's key.
So if at the end of the day you and the cameraman have discussed back and forth, and you've got input from the landowner or whomever's hosting, or if it's your property or what have you, at the end of the day, if you guys are split on what you think the best play is, who gets the final say? I mean, are you making the final, rapping the gavel, saying, no, listen, I'm going to this set, let's go?
Very few times. I mean, sometimes maybe, but I don't know. Whoever's filming with me, we just put our heads together and make come to an agreement, because it's a team effort,
Right.
I think we always kind of agree on everything, and I've hunted with some really good camera guys in the past, like my friend Kyle is he's just a young kid. He's like 23, and he's just a phenomenal hunter. Great camera guys, great instincts. So we put our heads together and we just get it done. And Cohen Stone, who is our head camera guy and does everything for us on the video side at Bone Collector, is a great hunter too. And you just put your head together with the team and figure it out. And you typically agree on stuff. You typically do, because you put your input in, he puts his in, you formulate a plan, and that's what's good about it. You go, for the win together, or you freaking lose together.
Nick, I'm going to call JP out on that question, because that was kind of a rude question.
No, it wasn't really. No, I want to know the dynamic on how he operates.
I'm giving him.
There's some guys that their way or the highway. I'm not like that. I want everybody to be happy and enjoy it too. So I'm not just out there for me.
I'm just giving JP a hard time, man. I was like, well, what do you want him to say there, JP? Yeah, it's my show. I mean, I
wasn't going to get that. I mean, I just didn't know where his head was at on it. But I do have a follow-up question on it. So let's just take these longer hunts, for example. Obviously, if you're doing 3 or 4 days at one property in one state, you've probably got the same guy with you. But, within the course of a season of Bone Collector, how many different guys are behind camera for you, and how do you decide who ends up going with you on these trips?
Usually only about 2 or 3. we've got a couple full-time guys, and then we got a couple freelance guys, and we use pretty much the same guys. So it's usually three different people. It could be, you know. So they're all great hunters, and they all do a great job for us. So we have a blast. That's the main thing. We like to have fun, man.
You can tell that it comes across definitely in what you guys do that you're not doing it for a paycheck. You're doing it because you enjoy it and genuinely having a good time out there, and that promotes the right message, I think, for everybody watching as well.
Well, I think that's what more of the people you see on TV need to do. They need to concentrate a little more on, you know, getting more people into hunting and enjoying the hunting rather than just being, I don't know. I think we need to work harder to get more hunters on board. That's what our job is at Bone Collector. I mean, we definitely do what we do so that people get involved. I mean, we want more kids, we want more ladies, we want as many people in hunting as we can, because, you know, we're losing hunters like crazy. So if you're on TV, that's your job, is to get people in the field, and that's one of the things we can all do as, you know, people as conservationists in doing, you know, whether it's Ducks Unlimited or Whitetails Unlimited or Elk Foundation, Turkey Federation, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's good to become a member of those organizations. They just do so much for hunting and get kids involved, and so that's what we need to do. Each person needs to take a new person every year and just take them hunting for a day, whether it's a kid down the street from you that's you know, comes from a single home, maybe doesn't have a dad around, or, you know, or has just never been, you know, from a hunting family, and get somebody new involved, man. That's kind of what it's all about, you know. And we just really believe in that heavy. So
I love the fact that you brought that up, Nick. Yeah, I'm really.
We have fun, and we want to get people involved.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one of the things I was actually getting ready to ask you before you even just went into talking about that. Was, you know, getting people involved in the outdoors, and that's a great message there, and what you guys are promoting. And I know that I feel like more and more outdoor groups are getting involved in that. Maybe not enough, though. Maybe not to the level in what they should be involved in. I know, you know, we're small potatoes over here at Pro Talk Outdoors and what we do, but, you know, we're taking, every time we have a youth season, we're taking different kids out to turkey hunt or deer hunt or whatever. And I really wish that more and more people would get involved in doing that, because and that's a twofold thing, though. I mean, don't just take these kids hunting. Actually show them the entire process. You know, we had Mark Drury on probably 6 weeks ago or something like that, and he brought up something that I thought was really interesting. He met with the Missouri Department of Natural Resources, and they were talking. This was what their whole conversation was on, was hunter recruitment and maintaining these kids when they go hunting. You know, when they turn adults, they just disappear. They don't hunt anymore. And you know, he made the mention that he thought maybe that these kids were being spoon-fed too much, you know, and not enjoying the entire process, and they were basically just showing up and being the shooter in a lot of instances, and then they didn't really know how to hunt whenever they were kind of turned out on their own, so they kind of went away from it.
Sure. Yeah, I don't disagree with that at all. It's different these days with kids, you know. They got so much stuff right at the end of their fingertips, and instant gratification everywhere, and you know, the days of, you know, a kid going outside and hitting a pine cone with a stick or catching snakes and frogs is pretty much over with, you know.
I did all that except the catch snakes part. I will.
Yeah,
not
you
do
lost
that.
me at snakes, Nick. This is a no snake show here. Oh, shoot, man. Well, hey, but before we let you go, I want to ask you, what is the best place to keep up with what you are doing as well as what's going on with Bone Collector? Where can folks keep track of all that good stuff?
Great. Definitely check out my Instagram and Twitter. They're both Nick Mundt, and pretty easy to find. And then, you know, our Bone Collector website and our Bone Collector social medias as well. Those are all, you know, at Bone Collector. So
not to be confused with Nick Bunt, right?
Yes. In fact, I used to be at Nick's Game was my handle, but there's a really nice young man. His name is Nick Mundt. He gave me his name, so that was really nice. You know, I sent him a message and said, hey, you know, I'd like to have Nick Mundt as my Instagram account, and I was wondering if you would be willing to switch with me. And he said, heck yeah, go ahead.
That's awesome. That's
pretty
really
cool.
Good, yeah.
Was he familiar with you before that?
So it's Nick Mundt now, so that was great.
Good deal, man. Well, appreciate you so much coming on and hang with us through the break. You're listening to Pro Talk Outdoors. Hey, everybody. Thanks for sticking around with us for... we've had stories about raccoons. We've talked about public land. We've talked about, going through an outfitter, getting tags. We've kind of covered the gamut today.
Yeah. Nick Mundt, what a classy guy. I mean, he's a jokester. He likes to have a good time. Anybody that watches Bone Collector can see that. But when it comes right down to it, he's a serious fella, and he's serious about hunting and being successful. He works hard for it, and
you got to take it seriously to be successful.
And he's doing things for the right reasons. He kind of went off and talked about what bone collectors, maybe their unwritten mission statement, I guess you could say, is they want to get more people involved with the outdoors, and almost kind of called to carpet some of the other groups maybe in the outdoor industry, saying if you're not doing that, you're not doing your job.
And one thing we didn't mention in the segment when he brought that up was, and this may be me being a nerd, but branding is a big part of that. The more recognizable you are as a brand, the more success you're going to have in getting folks involved that might otherwise not be. Bone Collector is in big box stores all over the place. I mean, that logo is awesome. Whomever designed it, congratulations to you. It's iconic. It's recognizable, and I mean, it's slapped around different places, and people see that and they know those guys. They're drawn to Michael and T-Bone and Nick, and they just recognize that and can put a face with the name.
Bone Collector is associated with a high level of successful hunting and entertainment. Mm-hmm. You can't go anywhere that you don't see Bone Collector stickers on the back of trucks.
You can't.
You can't go into any 7-Eleven down in Mississippi without running into somebody wearing some Bone Collector gear.
I've played on cornhole boards that had their logo on it before.
Yeah.
I mean, it's iconic, and that's a big part. Just to tie it in, brand recognition is a big part of getting people involved with anything. I mean, if you're thinking about picking up something to drink, you're probably thinking the first 2 or 3 things are just the logos that you're used to seeing. That's probably what's going to pop up into your head first. It's all about brand recognition.
Water, coffee, Busch Light. That's the 3 things I'm thinking.
Oh, man. Well, with that in mind, it's probably about time to wrap this episode up. It might be beer 30. Until next time, hook 'em or hunt 'em. Pro Talk Outdoors.
Later, guys.